The guy who does it the best today about cutting angles and being right in front of you and you can't hit him is Lomachenko. Lomachenko stands right in front of you and then he's not.
Yeah.
And then he's over here and then he's punching you in the face.
While getting punched in the face for a living isn't exactly a one-way ticket to a PhD, after years of experience in the ring, a fighter usually enhances what's referred to in boxing circles as ring IQ.
If you control your mind, you control everything.
There are many different ways a pugilist can display their level of IQ, whether it be an off-the-cuff decision made in the ring that takes their opponent by surprise, or a pre-planned trick or strategy to gain the upper hand later on.
He had studied the mathematics, the science of the whole thing, and the psychology of it was going to play a big part of it as well.
In today's video, we'll be taking a look at some of my personal favorite moments of genius over the years. Some more iconic than others, but all compelling in their own way. If you enjoy the content on this channel, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Here now, BLTV presents When Boxers Display 2000 IQ.
Sound like Mystic Meg, because some of those predictions came true.
Naseem Hamed is one of the most polarizing figures in boxing history. Loved by his fans and hated by his opponents, his cocky in-ring antics caused quite the stir during the mid-90s.
He's seen the skill of the Prince and the strength and the ability and the accuracy and the speed.
His playful, demoralizing nature could quite easily fill a video like this on its own. After all, many of his defensive slips have led to some brutal knockouts by themselves. Yet, the one tactic that stands out above all, his ring walks.
Well, this is where all the hoopla has to stop, and Prince Naseem Hamed has to show the Americans what all the fuss is about.
From recreating the Thriller music video to flying to the ring on a carpet like Aladdin, there were no boundaries, and that included time length, most of which lasted a solid 10 minutes while his opponents stood in the ring bemused.
Just wonder what's in his head.
Yeah, you'd love to know.
Prince Naseem was a dynamic puncher in his own right, and when you combine that with an already mentally tortured opponent that's likely let his body go cold, it's no surprise he holds multiple records for knockouts in under 60 seconds. In all honesty, if he didn't enjoy tormenting his opponent so much, he would probably have scored a dozen more in the first round.
Not really at all. I knew I was going to win. I knew once I hit him properly, I was going to take him out, and I did so.
As much as I think he just enjoyed showing off his dance moves to the world, there was definitely an intimidation aspect to his entrance as well, and for that, he warrants a place in the series. We have to label our next pick as more of an honorable mention to the series as a whole. I mean, the boxer in question, Vladimir Klitschko, didn't exactly win his fight because of this tactic. In fact, he got knocked out. But my oh my, it was a crafty move that was so desperately close to paying off.
There's a lot of insecurities because you haven't gained that experience.
There was no end to Klitschko's mind games leading up to the huge showdown with Anthony Joshua in 2017. He chose his words carefully during interviews, with the only person he intended hearing them being Anthony Joshua.
When Klitschko kept on saying he was obsessed, he wants to win, he wants to become three-time heavyweight world champion, I knew then I had a tough fight on my hands.
Obsession was the key word. He was convinced he had AJ's number, so much so that he presented a USB stick at their press conference that apparently predicted the outcome of their future bout to a T.
I'm not Nostradamus, but on this USB stick, I recorded a video last week, my prediction and the outcome of the fight.
As many of you will already know, the fight went on to be an all-time classic in the heavyweight division. AJ had to overcome some crucial stamina issues before both men hit the canvas, which eventually led to the younger man and Anthony Joshua being the victor late on. Everyone assumed Klitschko's prediction was wrong. It's not as if he'd predict AJ to knock him out after all, and they were right, yet his prognostication was shockingly close.
He said his prediction on Ukrainian TV. He said, I will gas out, I'll try and knock him out, and as I come rushing in, he'll catch me with a right hand and he'll knock me clean out. Sound like Mystic Meg, because some of those predictions came true.
The only thing Klitschko got wrong in his prediction was the knockout part. Change that to knockdown, and as AJ said, that was Mystic Meg-esque right there. Or for the people that didn't read lower-tier British newspapers from the 90s, a prediction Nostradamus would be proud of. The idea was very clever overall, a different take on your average mind game, which is a welcomed entrant to the series. If boxing was taught in a martial arts dojo, the final belt on would be awarded for mastering the art of pure counterpunching. Many boxers possess the skill and brute force to score a knockdown by merely moving forward and throwing a cluster of punches. Heck, George Foreman became an all-time great just pulverizing guys without much attention to detail. Yet when you look back on boxing's most destructive KOs, most were set up by some form of a counterpunch.
And look at that second right hand. How Tommy ever got up the first time was a miracle.
The Mexican legend Juan Manuel Marquez is undoubtedly one of the best pure counterpunchers in history. He wasn't the most elegant fighter in the world, more often than not being found scrapping away in the center of the ring. Nevertheless, 25 years of mastering his craft on the inside took him to the very top, leaving behind a highlight reel for kids to study for generations after his departure.
Marquez seizing the advantage in the center of the ring.
In terms of experience combined with ability, Marquez was at his peak in 2012 when he faced Manny Pacquiao for the 4th time.
I think I won the last 3 fights.
3 fights?
Yes.
Their previous encounters were legendary close-fought battles, but Manny always seemed to just outsmart and outwork his man to remain unbeaten. This time around, Marquez deployed and stuck to his most astute game plan to date. After both men scored early knockdowns, the fight looked on course to travel the distance and become another classic 12-round war. But in round 6, Pac-Man got a touch overeager and Marquez pounced.
Back and tries to roar back to nail Pacquiao with the right hand. Oh! That's another knockdown. He's not getting up, Jim. He get up. He's not getting up, Jim. He's not getting up. No, he's been knocked out.
The feint, followed by the slight feet adjustment, left Pacquiao in a world of trouble, and Marquez opened his body to unleash a devastating right hand that, on another day, could have separated Manny's jaw from his skull. Beautiful brutality and a worthy placement here today.
That picture right there, Pacquiao face down. I had that framed on my wall, and me like this, running around the ring, all bloodied up.
I know many people that watch this channel are active practitioners of boxing. I boxed for a number of years myself during my teens, and I speak from personal experience when I say there's nothing worse than fighting or sparring a shoe shiner. For those that don't know, a shoe shiner is a term used to describe a fighter that throws constant flurries to their opponent's head and body. The punches are often thrown without much conviction, used more as an offensive deterrent, yet it works well in winning the crowd's favor and scoring points or rounds with the judges.
It's shoe shining, okay? But there's a science to it, but it really can actually be applied in a real fight.
Sugar Ray Leonard was the master of shoe shining. Dating right the way back to his amateur days, there's footage of him using the technique to his advantage, eventually mastering it to the point where he was stopping his challengers on their feet during his prime years. The technique itself wasn't enough to feature on the series. There are fighters out there well equipped to deal with such a threat. For instance, a few pity-patty shots were never going to stop Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Ray wanted to walk down the street and people say, there's Ray Leonard, he's the greatest fighter that ever lived. And the way he could get there was by beating Marvin Hagler, the most menacing man within his realm.
It was against the top opposition where Leonard's IQ, combined with his shoe shining, became genius.
A few round-stealing flurries is what he's trying to do.
Against Hagler, Hearns, and Duran, all elite boxers in their own right and more than capable of beating Leonard on points, Ray started throwing the flurries towards the end of every round, making what looked like a close call a no-brainer for the judges.
Leonard won the first 2 rounds.
30 seconds before the bell would end, all he done that was say 30 seconds and I would flurry and win that round.
It's known as round stealing, and because of the incompetence of most judges throughout boxing history, the old saying, "What have you done for me lately?" came into play and more often than not worked in Leonard's favor, regardless of how the rounds actually played out. Leonard never even hid the fact that it was his strategy to steal rounds. He'd often tell the press exactly what his plans were prior to the bout. His fights with Hagler and Hearns, in particular, were very close bouts, and it goes without saying the pity-patty combos were deciding factors in him remaining unbeaten against them both.
Round-stealing flurries is what he's trying to do.
Unquestionably, one of the most iconic strategies in boxing history. The 168-pound super middleweight limit has only been around for roughly 30 years or so. For whatever reason, fighters from the British Isles have predominantly governed this weight class since its existence.
Trapped in his own corner. He's got 1 minute and 14 seconds to survive. He's in real trouble, and a left hook has wiped him out. He wilts down to the canvas, and George Grove's championship reign has come to an end.
Smith, Froch, Calzaghe, Ben, and Eubank Sr. between them have ruled the roost for the most part. Yet a man who holds multiple wins against some of those listed names is often overlooked.
Don't believe in the hype, believe in the man, Steve Collins. I'm not just the best Irish fighter ever, I'm the best pound for pound in the world. Ray Jones, who's next?
Steve Collins, the Celtic Warrior, is one of the most established fighters from the Republic of Ireland. In fact, according to BoxRec's algorithm, he's the #1 ranked boxer in their entire history. Despite being Irish, Collins established his career in America during his early years, where the fans would turn up to see some of his signature mauling and brawling on the inside.
Chin in the air, head down. I think that could be a mistake.
There's a danger that Collins could walk onto one.
Not a pretty fighter by any means, but a tough SOB, worthy of the current champion's respect.
I'm an honest fighter, I'm the most honest fighter. I am the best pound for pound fighter in the world. And who's going to prove me wrong? Nobody. And if anyone thinks they can, bring him on.
In March 1995, Collins' skills were put to the test against the best of Britain, Chris Eubank. Eubank was on a 43-fight unbeaten streak at this point and a significant betting favorite. However, those odds started to even themselves out after Collins announced in their press conference that he had hired a world-renowned hypnotist to make him an unstoppable force.
He looked more focused than I've ever seen him before. There's a lot to be said about this hypnotism, I don't know, but he seemed like really focused and not his normal self.
The psychic culture was much more popular in the 90s. Still, very few people took it as much more than entertainment. Eubank, on the other hand, was completely freaked out, going as far as threatening to call the fight off instantly.
Tonight. That's why I'm afraid. That's why I wanted to call the fight off. That's why I would call the fight off if I could now. Because I'm going into unknown territory. The 43 fights I've had in the past, I've always known what I was dealing with. I don't know what I'm dealing with tonight. On the hypnosis, basically, he will be more. There has to be a line drawn here. And this is why I'm taking up to the Board of Control and the PBA. This is wrong.
Collins doubled down on the hypnosis on fight night when he sat in his corner listening to headphones throughout the entrances and introduction.
Collins did not even hear his own ring introduction. Now that's the hypnotist, Dr. Tony Quinn, disrobing him there. He's taking off the headphones. Now he says that all this hypnotism is going to make him punch harder. He says he's going to change his footwork. I must say, I thought Steve Collins was a pretty good fighter without all of that. Collins, it's reckoned he'd be best as the cagey counter-puncher. What's going to be in front of me here tonight? Good left jab from Eubank, rather dived into it. Collins comes back, scores with a left hook of his own. Just lunging a bit, and Eubank goes onto the floor.
Collins performed well on the night and weathered a late Eubank surge to earn a unanimous decision. It wasn't until the post-fight interview that we learned the hypnosis strategy was nothing more than a ploy, an elaborate hoax to gain a mental victory over Eubank in the build-up.
How much was an influence was your hypnotist? There was a lot made of that before the fight. How big a factor was that?
We fooled the world.
Collins would later go on to state that he was aware of Eubank's trepidation towards the supernatural, yet he could have never predicted how foolishly spooked it would make him become. Whether the mind games were the deciding factor in Collins' victory remains a mystery. Still, I think it's fair to say, we've never seen such innovative and shrewd pre-fight mind games as ingenious as this.
How big a factor was that?
We fooled the world.